Joining us now with more insight on these developing cabinet picks and the city's budget woes, WGN political analyst Paul Lisnek. Hello,
hey guys.
Paul.
Thanks for moving fast.
Yeah, let's start with the city first,
Yeah.
locally.
Sure.
Mayor Brandon Johnson dealing with these budget woes for quite a while. Last week we were saying he was asking for property taxes unanimously cut out by the city council. Now there may be $40 million more in the budget deficit?
That's because Springfield was voting on something that would have put an extra tax on burner phones and other stuff, and they voted it down, so he's not getting that money that he counted on. It is sort of interesting, though, when you think about, do we have to have a property tax? He pretty quickly, after the council voted 50-0 to knock down the $300 million tax, said, well, we'll make it $150 million. If you can turn around that fast, how much did you really need the 300, right?
Point.
And is it going to be that you need this property tax? I think most experts would tell you that there's got to be cuts being made. There'll have to be some extra revenues, but not through a property tax.
Well, Cook County Board President Toni Preckwinkle, she had no problem, with the budget. Everything was great. A little extra for this, a little extra for that. How can she do it and Mayor Brandon Johnson can't?
Yeah, the two of them probably ought to have lunch and talk about how to do this.
Yeah.
And by the way, Preckwinkle does this year after year, certainly within the recent past. I think part of it is because Preckwinkle had an advisory committee, people who were studying this, preparing her for it, and obviously looking ahead.
The mayor doesn't have anything like that?
Well, I don't know that he has a similar committee, but one of the things we know is he came into this office with a surplus from Mayor Lightfoot. Yes, it was COVID funds that were there, but he knew they were going away. So, and I don't want to be fair, I don't know that he didn't start planning a year ago, but one can argue that the planning might have been more efficient and effective had he done this a year ago, knowing that we would be in this situation a year
now
from
garbage collection fees might go up. The
and
council
and alley fees as well, which because there's those private alley collections, so they don't necessarily pay the garbage fees, so we got to get them. So we'll do it through an alley use fee.
And alcohol was another big discussion.
And restaurants and bars, not happy about that. We've been reporting on that. Because here's the thing. It sounds easy to say, oh, yeah, I'm going to have to pay a tax when I buy a drink or something like that. And it sounds like they just keep going after that person. Except the person who owns the bar says, but I've got to buy that liquor. That is more expensive. I have to raise my prices. And it just goes down the line. And that means fewer people going out and trying to find another way to take a drink or whatever it is they want to do. So there are repercussions to every increase that you have.
Yeah, the Jussie Smollett case. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
It had a dramatic turn today, thanks to the Illinois Supreme Court. I'm curious to know how you think this ultimately reflects on Kim Foxx and her tenure.
Well, Kim Foxx did a statement yesterday where she said
Kim Foxx is not running again, first of all.
Well, she's not running.
Yeah.
So she's not up for, she wasn't up for anything. But she sort of said she felt vindicated by what the Supreme Court did. But let's understand a little better what the Supreme Court did. They didn't step in and say she was right in what she did or she was wrong in what she did. What the Supreme Court, and by the way, and I've been getting viewer emails from people saying, I don't get it. Why aren't you going after the fact that this deal wasn't, strong enough or tough enough? The bottom line is the Supreme Court basically said, first of all, that they understood that the public was watching this. That's actually in their opinion. We know people are watching this, and we know people think that this should have been tougher. Here's the bottom line. The court looked and said, Kim Foxx struck a deal with Jussie Smollett and his team. Bottom line. And he abided by that deal. He forfeited his bail. He did community service. Probation came along with it. He abided by the terms. And then when another judge, Tooman, steps in and goes, we're going to appoint a special prosecutor because I don't think that's the right result. The bottom line, and then we have a trial and he's found guilty. The bottom line of his lawyers is to say, this is a done deal. You can't go after somebody who struck a deal and did what he was, what agreed to do and was asked to do.
Didn't you think Dan Webb would know that, though? I mean, why would he take the case? I mean, he has come out and said other things about it, but I mean, that seemed like a likely conclusion.
Well, it's a good question because basically the prosecutor's position on this was, because they had to argue it to the Supreme Court, was to say, no, there is nothing unordinary about having this deal. It wasn't deemed proper. They call it a null pros or whether or not this was an effective prosecution, and saying, no, we have every right to do this. This happens all the time, kind of thing. Well, it doesn't happen all the time, and the Supreme Court actually looked to some cases from Pennsylvania and some other states where essentially the bottom line was you struck a deal, you abide by it, you're stuck, and this is the way it is.
But that's a lot of money, from the taxpayers' pockets.
Oh, that we went through. No question about that, right? You're right. We go through weeks of a trial and all these appeals, and ultimately, you're right, the public is paying for all of that as it goes through. I will say this. There is a possibility. It's not totally over when you think about the money, because there could be a civil suit against Smollett to recover all of those costs, not criminal, but civil. That could proceed. And then, Micah, taxpayers might be happy if indeed they win.
Let's talk about Donald Trump. All week, every day, we hear new appointments to his
Yeah.
cabinet. The biggest thing this week was that Matt Gaetz was nominated for Attorney General. Then the next day, he's out.
He's going. And listen, let's look at the logistics of why that probably happened. Matt Gaetz knew that a report about his alleged sexual activities was going to come out when he won his race for Congress. So as soon as he was nominated for Attorney General, boom, he resigns the congressional seat, and that put the House committee on hold because they went, wait a minute, not a member of Congress. We can't investigate him anymore. We're done. Then, of course, the big fight because the Senate's saying we need to see that. The public has a right to see it. So interestingly enough, he took himself out of the AG race, saying this isn't going to be good for Donald Trump. Pam Bondi from Florida ends up coming in. But some people said, well,
She's not squeaky clean either.
there's some issues behind her. There was a $25,000 contribution made to a super PAC of hers, and then she did not go after the Trump University, which she was planning to do. She issued a statement, I believe today, saying no connection between the two. So don't assume there is. That's what she says. But Matt Gaetz, basically, I've been asked, well, can he go back and grab his congressional seat? There might be a fight over that because he did give it up and the wheels are turning. But here's the thing. He doesn't want that seat because if he goes back, that investigation continues and wraps up. And the very reason he resigned, to keep that report out of the public eye, it would come back in the public eye.
Now the world's looking more closely at Pete Hegseth. Tulsi Gabbard talk
Right.
about their problems and their likelihood to being confirmed.
So Hegseth also facing sexual misconduct related allegations, and there's some other stuff. He wears that tattoo, which they're saying is tied to white supremacist groups. He is going to be he's going to have the toughest road right now because of those similar kinds of allegations. Remember, Matt Gaetz didn't cost senators anything. He took himself out of it. Tulsi Gabbard is a really different and not strange situation, but unfortunate. She was on a terrorist watch list, not the terrorist watch list. There's
Quiet
actually different
skies.
lists. Exactly. So something that was sort of temporary, but the bottom line is it was enough to give law enforcement concern about what she was doing and what her operations were and who she's interacting with. Again, this is somebody who's been appointed to run the intelligence services of our country. So not sure where it should go. I only know, does it need to be investigated? Yes. Strangely, though, Donald Trump has basically decided, because he hasn't agreed to the transfer terms, they're not undergoing FBI investigations. Now, why you wouldn't want to put the head of your DNI, of your national security, before the FBI? No, they're nonpartisan. They're not going after anybody. But to give a report for the senators, and Trump has refused to do it. He's not required to make them do it, but one would argue that it would be nice if somebody going to handle national security indeed went through the FBI background check.
Let's talk about Donald Trump's sentencing being postponed indefinitely.
Yeah, well, this was coming. Here's the bottom line. Trump's strategy all the way through, and his lawyer strategy, was delay, delay, delay. And man, it worked. That's the bottom line. It worked. All of this stuff got put. Now, the cases are going to go away on the federal end. Can I add another point to that?
Sure.
Trump has said tonight he's firing everybody that was tied to those 2020 investigations, the January 6th
Smith,
investigations. Yeah, but here's the thing. He can fire Jack Smith, but as we're reading his words, he's also firing all the full-time prosecutors, the secretaries, the paralegals, everybody involved. He wants them out. That is easier said than done, because career prosecutors and career people they're not subject to the same political ramifications that an appointed or political U.S. attorney is. So he can try and fire them. They'll have lawsuits, and that will be a complete mess. So we'll see what happens, but it's also unfair, I think, to make him go in that direction against them.
Your Sunday show.
Hey, we're going to have Joe Ferguson on. He is the former Inspector General of the city, and now, of course, he's the president of the Civic Federation. He's going to talk about the mayor's budget and what the Federation thinks about that. And Congresswoman Delia Ramirez is going to talk about, we didn't even get to this, immigration and what is likely to happen under the Trump administration. Trump is going to likely declare a national emergency, and that gives him a lot of power. And you'll see the Democrats in Congress are very nervous about it. They may not be able to get around some of the things he's going to do.